Hi everyone, we're doing spellcraft. I'm going to copy and paste this onto Facebook on the group so you guys can find me if you're looking for me on the event that I put up in the Magick Apothecary group. So it's the Magick Apothecary group, M-A-G-I-C-K, Apothecary, and that is where I put all of my things. That's like the major focus of my work on Facebook, and also the name of my YouTube channel. So all these things will be on there on the YouTube channel and both on the Magick Apothecary, plus in any groups that really it pertains to. So I'm saying I'm on here now. Okay, so that's that. So there we are. All right, so that's Facebook. Anyway, so whether or not people come in, I don't pay attention to it, generally speaking. People do come and go, and I just keep going one way or the other. People sometimes say they want to come in and they can't make it, and then that's fine. What you do then is you just eventually look at this stuff online, and you get everything you need done that way. So there you go. I am Mary Elizabeth McCurry. I call myself the Magick Apothecary. That's the name of my business and the work that I do in that stuff, in magic. I also am a tarot card reader. I'm an astrologer. I'm a magician. I'm a pagan. I've been Wiccan for over 20-something years and have been studying and practicing in the New York area all of that time with different people in different places. I am an initiated Gardnerian Wiccan, and I am also initiated into a mystery tradition. It's a Roman mystery tradition, as well as having formed my own coven way back when. And I do teach and create spells for people, as well as do, as I said, readings. And I am also a Reiki master and an ordained minister. So all that stuff is true, and with me you can find different directions to go. I like to do these things for free. These are free lessons online, and this is a free live event. We're doing love spells today, how to create love spells. The first part of this spellcraft class was last month, and during that class I also put together a list and put that up on the spellcraft group, which is on this event. And if you're in the spellcraft group or other groups, you can just go on over there and join the group. I'll allow you to come in and you can look at the supply list, or you can just listen to the video from last month, excuse me, and catch up that way. So why do you need supplies for spells? Well, if you want to make a lot of spells, or if you want to do spells on a regular basis, you can do that. Now, let's go into this and getting spell kits together. Now, let me take my glasses off, and then we'll put them back on later when I'm reading. So what's a spell? We talked about that. What's spelling out a desire? Before you can do anything, you have to know exactly what it is you want. And I say, if you don't know exactly what you want, it's not time to do a spell. You can't just sort of take pot shots in the dark. You have to know exactly what you're doing. There was a woman who contacted me this week and said she didn't feel like she ever gets her spells to work because she doesn't feel like they don't seem to happen for her. And we were talking about how she can use intention a little bit more focused. So one of the first things we want to do is say, let's just say we want to make a love spell. Now, we may not want to make a love spell, but it's kind of a common spell that people do. Let's talk about the first thing. One of the tenets of Wicca, and not witchcraft. Wicca is a form of witchcraft, but not all witchcraft is Wicca. So you guys, hi, hello. Look that up if you're curious about that. But the first thing you want to think about is, and it harm none. So say we're doing a love spell. Just say we are, just for shits and giggles. We're doing a love spell, and you know who you want to do it for and with. You are talking about romantic love now. We're not talking about sexual love. That's a different form of spell, passion spell, but love, romance, a deep relationship. So the first thing you want to know is, does that person actually like you? I mean, do you have any reason to believe that that person that you're using or are targeting is somebody who's interested in you? If they're not, you shouldn't do the spell. Here's why. This is what a lot of people call gray magic. It's not black magic, and it's not white magic. It's in the middle somewhere, because even though you have a crush on somebody or a romantic interest in someone, or even a sexual interest in someone doesn't mean that they have returning that. And you can, through magic, manipulate someone to feel for you. You can do that. It does happen. It can happen. Then what will happen is there's something called the law of threefold return. Follow here. Not everybody believes in this, but this is a way to look at things. So I'll put it out for you. Every time you do a spell, you get it back threefold. Of course, unless it's something like you're in dire straits or you doing something to protect yourself from somebody who's really hurting you or your family member, or that's a different situation. Even then, though, it would come back on you threefold. As long as you're not trying to harm anybody else, you should be fine. So you have to search your conscience and say, am I willing to do a spell that comes back on me 3 times? So say I love person A, let's call him Joe. I love Joe. And I think he loves me back, but maybe he's too shy, or maybe he's not sure, or maybe, okay. And I want to give it a boost. Okay, then it might be okay. But be willing to know that for every ounce of energy you put into trying to get Joe to care for you, you're going to care for Joe 3 times more. And what if it's not returned? That's something to consider. Also, if you don't know if, say, said person, Joe, loves you or not, or has feelings for you or not, and you try to rope them in, all's going to happen is you're going to rope in somebody who wants nothing to do with you. And it may not last, and it may be very uncomfortable. Thank you. And it may be very, very difficult for you to untie yourself from that sort of a thing. It can become an obsession, an unrequited love and an obsession. So that's something to think about also. Okay, so say you do know that Mr. Joe or Pete or Fred loves you, and you're going to go ahead and do this thing. Just to give the love a little bit of a boost. Maybe add more romance. Maybe get a person to open their heart to you. These are purer types of magic and more towards white magic. So how do we do that? Well, first things first, spell out what you want. I said this last time, spell, spell, spell. The word spell is there for a reason. You have to spell it out. You've heard this in our language in English. Spell it out. What exactly do you want? It could be many things. It could be anything. I want Pete to buy me flowers more and be more attentive. I want my husband to be more romantic. I want to go out on more dates. I want to have a closer relationship with the person I really care for. Now, it could be love, not only just romantic love between 2 people. It can also be friendship. It can also be at work. You can add love to work. Sometimes I'm a stage performer, as some of you might know. Sometimes when I go on stage, I have a love perfume that I wear. Sometimes I forget, but sometimes I don't. And when I don't, it seems to work a little bit better. I want the audience to love me. I want them to love the work, love the music. So I put it on for that reason and with that intention. So that's a way also, so if you're making a speech, say, or if I'm doing this podcast, I might decide to make love magic happen. So you guys love the work. So that can work too. So the word love is kind of it's a big love. It's a big word. You can heal families with that. You can bring love to your children. You can bring love to, your parents, whatever your reasoning is. But most people, when they hear love spell, they're like, oh, I want to do a love spell like they did in Practical Magic with the little dove and the blood. And this woman was obsessed with this man, and then she went to the witches and they gave her, yeah, it's all very romantic. But what happens then? And as a matter of fact, in that film, that was a good film actually, and they said, oh, they felt sorry for her because they knew what was going to happen, which was she was going to be more obsessed than she ever was before. I mean, if you're desperate for a person's love, you have to reevaluate why first. I don't think I would have done that love spell for her, that woman. I definitely wouldn't have hurt a bird. I would have never used blood. That's just me. Other people do, and that's their business, but I don't approve. Anyway, along the line of love spell. So spell out what you want. So let's say this person loves you, and they're just they need a good kick in the pants to make it happen. So then you write that out. I need to give John a kick in the pants so that he loves me and shows me, or whatever it is you need. I want proof of his love. I want letters. I want money. I want chocolate. I don't know. I want romantic intention. I want him to take me on vacation. I want him to prove his love for me through whatever means you need that done. So that's what you first are doing. Two things: making sure you're not manipulating a person. Now, if you, again, want to do black magic, that's your business. I wouldn't do it for you, first of all, like I've said. If you want to manipulate a person into loving you, you're going to end up in a trap, and they may not love you. And you may love them threefold more than they'll ever love you. Ask me how I know. These things don't work. It doesn't work. So there's that. So spells. Spell it out. Then you're going to decide after that, what is your medium? How are you going to make the spell? Okay, so let's talk about simple things like candles. Candle magic. What is candle magic? That's a simple thing. A lot of people think of witches burning candles and chanting, chanting spells over candles. Of course, yes. Why? Magic is something to be seen. It's like a prayer that you see. It's something that you light. It's something you ignite. It's something you use. Now, I said in my last lecture about your altar and a sacred space. So if you're making a love spell and you're sure you want to do it and you've worked it out and you've written it down clearly, making sure that you have thought of every possible thing that could go wrong and making exceptions for that. If you've done that, it's time to make an altar or use the altar you might have in your home. Now, an altar is a sacred space. And if I was making a love spell, what might I put on my altar? Well, I might use pink cloth as the altar cloth. I might, or red or gold, because those gold and pink and green are colors that are sacred to Venus. That's the goddess of love, the Roman goddess of love, or Aphrodite was her name in the Greek pantheon. So you might say, let's look for a god or goddess or both that has to do with love. All right, so let's say we want Venus and Cupid. That sounds pretty good. Those are two well-known figures in the love arena. So look up their colors. Use fabrics or decorations that represent them. You can purchase a statue and put them up, or you can, now we're lucky, and go print out something from the internet. I have a cuckoo clock. That's what that is. That's just telling me that it's 8:15. And that's what it does. It's never on time for some reason. And I can't make it work, even with magic. Anyway, so I might say, okay, I'm going to put up an altar for Aphrodite or Venus and Cupid and look up their information and use gold, like say, because Venus is, one of her colors is gold. So use gold candle holders or maybe a gold plate for certain things. And on an altar, a general magical working altar, you want to have the 4 elements represented. And those 4 elements are earth, air, fire, and water. I'm going to be doing a talk next on I think it's the 26th on Samhain, which is Halloween and or the Day of the Dead. And we're going to talk about altars more then. In the Pagan Path study group, I go into more detail on the procedures of this religion and what is necessary as far as gods, goddesses, ritual, and what's on tables and altars, etc., etc. So if you're interested in that, join that group and come to those lectures or look that stuff up too. Anyway, you need something that represents earth. Now, for love, we say, what is it that represents earth and love? Well, that's depending on your spell. Let's say I want Pete to love me more and be romantic. Well, I might say, okay, let me put a plant there that it represents that. I might put roses. I might put chocolate. I might put cake. I might put sugar. Earth. Things that come out of the earth. If I want my boss to love me more, I might put money to represent the earth, or salt, which represents money in magic. Okay, so earth, air. Now, a lot of people use incense to represent air, so that's fine. You can make your own incense, which we will talk about what goes in that tonight a little bit, and you can or buy some online, or you can have somebody make you some specifically for your spell with the spell's intention in mind or your own intention in mind. And then you say, okay, I'm going to burn that, and that air that goes into the smell that goes into the air, the smoke that goes into the air, that's my thoughts, and that's the magic that's going up, that's air. Or you can use feathers. And if I'm using dove feathers, if I find when I find feathers, by the way, when you find feathers, keep them, because they come in very handy in magic. So if you found a white feather and you wanted to use it, that would work. Doves. Fire. Now, aside from doing candle magic, which we're talking about, sort of, kind of, you would want to have a representation of fire. Now, it can be a candle, and it can be in any kind of glass holder or, a burner that you want. The same thing with the incense. And by the way, with loose incense, if you're using loose incense, please be careful. Get a fireproof dish. We talked about that in the supplies. And to burn your charcoal in. We also talked about that in the supplies in the first lecture. And also never leave these things unattended. Ever, 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 ever leave candles or incense burning. Please don't do that. Please. I know too many tragedies have come from that. There's an old thought that if you put a spell out or douse something, if you have an emergency and need to go out, it will end the spell. That is not true. Your intention lingers on. It doesn't matter. You can always reignite a spell. Anybody who tells you otherwise is just bruising for a fire. That's my opinion. Anyway, so earth, air, fire of some sort. It can be a lion, or it could be a ram. It could be representations of the astrology or a centaur. Those three things are fire signs: Sagittarius, Leo, Aries. You can put that there. What else could you use for fire? Any picture of fire, too, would do. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be. You could just put a match. It doesn't have to even be lit, as long as you know it's there. And the sulfur on a match counts as a fire element. Water, easy. Dish of water, easy. And that dish can be as elaborate or not. You can use a cup. A Dixie cup works, as long as it's pink, maybe, for this love spell. And anything. It could be in crystal. It could be just in a cup. It could be anything you want. You have to learn to use your imagination. And the more you expand on this, the better your spell will be. We talked too, second part of things, about magical timing. So what phase of the moon is it in? If right now we're in the new moon phase, the moon is new in Libra. So that's a good time to think about doing stuff for relationships. Libra rules marriage and partnership. So that might be a time to do that when the moon is new in Libra. So if you're thinking about doing a love spell, get thee on it. This is the time. From the new to the full time of the moon is the time when you want things to expand and grow. This is the time to put your tail in action, man. Get on it. Do your spell if you want to increase love. All right? Anytime in the waxing phase of the moon. But you want to look at where the moon is. Is it in Libra? Is it in Leo? Leo would be more of a passionate love. Very romantic love. So that's somewhere to imagine. Where is that? Or would it be in Scorpio, which is more of a sexual connection? Or would it be, or deeper connection? Would it be in Sagittarius? Would it be more of a free form kind of a love? What are you looking for? Explore the moon's phases and the signs. It's very, very hard to be a witch and not understand astrology. It's very, very hard to be a witch and not understand numerology. And it's hard to be a witch, not understand tarot or symbolism or ancient magician thought like the Kabbalah, the Hebrew K-A-B-A-L-A-H, Kabbalah, K-A-B-B-L-A-H, Kabbalah, the ancient Hebrew system of magic, Egyptian magic. Everything you know, and the more you know, makes your spells better. So the more you know, the better you are as a magician. The better if you want to call yourself a witch, the better witch you are. Okay, so there's that stuff. So you have this altar set up and you've explored perhaps putting another god or goddess down. By the way, Aphrodite, which is Venus, and Aries, which is Mars and the Roman, they were lovers. So that's somebody to think about. If you want a male representation and a female representation on your altar, look for pairs that work together. And also, many people believe stick with one group. Like if you like Celtic magic, stay with the Irish gods. If you want Norse, stay with those gods. If you want Roman, stay with those gods. Don't move around. You don't even need a god or a goddess represented on your altar if you don't feel comfortable. When I first started doing magic, I was extremely Catholic, and I always had Mary as my goddess. And so that's fine, and I still keep her there, and it's fine with me, and it's fine with her. She doesn't seem to mind at all. So it's up to you as to what you want to put there as far as your deity. It could be God himself. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to go pagan unless you wanted to. So there's all that. So let's talk about back to the spell of candle. Let's talk about what colors. I'm going to read because I have a list of things I wrote, and I'm going to put them together here. First of all, I have this book that I think if you don't have, you need to get. And I've studied with this woman and worked with her. Actually, went to work with her in a Santorian place. Her name is Lady Rhea. I'm going to send you a link now and put it up. Her candle spell book. I have it on Amazon, but you can get it in other places too. As parts of it are free on Google Books, but not all of it. So there's just a bite there. So there it is. That's the in the comments here on my side here. That's where I put it. Now, what's in that book is a whole bunch of stuff. And by the way, she still has a shop in New York City, and she can make you these enchanted candles. So if, say, you don't want to do this, and if it's too much work and you don't think you're going to do it right, you can go see her, or I can do it for you. I create candles from scratch. She takes candles out of their glass container, and she does beautiful artwork on them, and carves them and drenches them in oils, etc., etc. So, but in this book, she has pictures of these different things. Now, Lady Rhea in New York City is quite a famous person. She actually opened enchantments on East 9th Street, the original one, on right off First Avenue. There's the second one now on between First and A, but between First and Second was the original enchantments, and that's where I studied many years ago as well. So everything she has in that book is exactly still to this day, because when they transferred the ownership of enchantments, all of the reason they did, the only reason they would allow it was because she said we were going to keep everything the same way we have always done it. So if you go to enchantments and you want to buy a candle even today, you can ask for these candles to be made the way she did. The oil mixtures are the same as in her formulary, which is up on Amazon as well. It's Lady Rhea's formulary, magical formulary. And what a formulary is an ancient word that just means what's in the pharmacy, the mixtures. What do we have? We're going to add this oil and this herb and this thing together, and that's how we make this, quote, spell, oil. So let's talk about oils briefly before we get into Lady Rhea's book is there. We'll talk about color, and then we'll go into oils. So color. So pink. Pink, 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 pink. Why? Why pink? The first thing you see is pink. Pink is love, desire, passion, magnetism. Pink or red. Now, if you're going red, it's more of desire and passion and sexuality. Also magnetism and more fire. You can add both. You can have a pink candle and add red to it. It's all going to be up to you. Again, with the gold, the sun, success, abundance, and of course, Venus's power added into your candle. And you can go any way you want, if you want, and you can always use a white candle. There's always a way to go. I'm going to give you this. I'll send this out, this link later from my website, and then you can look at it all on the group, and you can look at all those coordinates. So you have yourself a pink candle. Let's just say you do. I suggest, and I like to say, it should be a pull-out candle. Let me look for a picture of that. Let's see what they look like, in case you don't know. Now, you can buy them in lots and lots and lots and lots of places. Again, Amazon seems to have everything in the world on their sites. So I will just give you an example of what it is. How much is that? It's way too expensive on Amazon, so don't buy it there. You can buy it in enchantments. You can buy it, by the way, in different places, in different botanicas. Always have these, and they're not as expensive. And Amazon has it up for $15. You can get it for like $5. Also, Azure Green, A-Z-U-R-E, Green, Azure Green, has a lot of things, and they have certainly candles. All right, so that's an example of what a pull-out candle is. If you click on that, you can see what it looks like. It comes out of the glass. That's the point. You don't have to use one of these, although it's a lot neater as far as wax and schmutz all over your altar. So that's one reason I like to use them, and also, too, because candles, if they explode, and they do, candles can explode, by the way. If you put glitter on candles or oils on candles, sometimes they get super hot and they pop inside of the glass, but at least the glass sort of stops it. Safety first. However, if you just want to have any kind of candle, doesn't matter. You can go buy what is called knob candles. Those look like this. I'll look for one for you. And also finger candles. Oh, we love the internet. I love the internet. Okay. Yeah, here's a good picture of one. It's nice. It's on Pinterest. I'll just cut and paste it for you guys. All right, so knob candles, right? How do we can use knob candles? Those last usually like about a week. A knob candle, and you can have an intention written on each one of those bumps on the knob if you like. That won't come up, of course. Yeah, this is a place that seems to have them for $5, so that's pretty good. I don't mind sharing stuff like that. That's good. You should do that. All right, so here's a picture of what that looks like. Also, figure candles. They look like a man or a woman. Sometimes they look like you can buy a spell candle of a skull. There's lots of different ones. Also, I'll show you those guys. And they come in all different colors, these figure candles. I'm going to put up the entire Google search for you here, so you can just look yourselves and take your time poking through while I'm talking. That's the search. Anyway, so lots and lots of candles are there. And you can also buy, you know, cats, skulls. There's even stuff that look like women's vaginas or penises. It's all up to you. It's really, again, it goes to the depth of your creativity. Anything you want. So a lot of the time, going into a witchcraft store and taking a real good look at these things is important. You can buy molds, and I have them, and I use them to make these things yourself. I always find the more I make myself, of course, the more powerful the spell. But there's that. All right, so if you wanted to use a candle that's pink or red and represents, and say you're a man and you want to make a love spell for a woman and you know her name and stuff, you can buy a figure candle. So first things you want to do is take that candle out and cleanse it. You can do that with your hands, by putting your hands over the candle and asking for only good white light to enter it and to cleanse any darkness. Or you can just buy a spray of, you can make a spray of salt and water and spray it and let it dry. You can do that. Or you can just leave it, you know, in salt. Some people like to do that. It depends on how you feel about it. If it feels really like from a creepy place, you might want to cleanse it before you start. So then the next day, you have a clean candle to work with. It's up to you. So then we're going to write out our spell, which we of course have done, and we're going to have that ready. And we're going to carve that candle. Now, if you have Lady Rhea's book or other books with magical symbols, or just put a big heart like you did when you were a kid with 2 names in it, that's fine too. You can decorate it to represent that person and yourself. And also, if you have their birthday, that's good. If you don't have their birthday but know their sign, that helps. The most powerful magic is done if you know their birth date and year and their mother's name. If you happen to know their secret magical name, that's fine too. And some people have those, and that if you know that, that's even better, okay? And you want to decorate it any way you like. A lot of people use glitter. Why? Glitter looks great. When fire is lit, it tinkles and sparkles on your altar, and it makes everything just look so magical and wonderful, and it picks up every bit of light, and it looks just so special, and which is just like glitter, I think. I just think we do. We're just attracted to glitter. So glitter is fine. Try to find non-toxic glitter. A lot of those are non-flammable, so you can do that. And the first thing you want to do before you put your glitter on, so say you've carved your candle and you have your guy's name or girl's name on it in a big heart, or whatever words you want to carve into that candle. Then you're going to find oil. All right, oil, Mary, oil, yes, oil. Now we discussed oil in great detail in last month. I did. You didn't, I did. And talking about what to do and how to make this happen. Now, I had suggested that you guys purchase some essential oils. Now, if you're going to do love magic, of course, the first thing everybody thinks of is rose oil. I had given you a couple of stores where you can purchase essential oils. You can look them up there. Rose oil is extremely expensive. So what you might want to try doing is getting a rose oil blend. There are lots and lots of places that sell you rose oil mixed already with other things like jojoba oil or olive oil or whatever. If you can't afford that, think of the next best thing. What's the next best thing? Well, let's think. You know, what does love smell like? To you, it might smell like vanilla. It might smell like pumpkin pie spice. It might smell like, I don't know, cookies. It might smell like chocolate cake. I don't know what it smells like to you, but you do. So if it's not roses that turn you on, that's a traditional essential oil, then you want to look for other essential oils. I'm going to say essential oil a lot, and here's why. It is all fine to work with perfume oils. Many, many people work with perfume oils, which are not real essential oils. They're just smell like them. They just smell like roses or lavender or mint or whatever it is. They're not real. Therefore, you're not really using the power of that plant. Plants are a witch's ally. When you grind up a plant and add it to a spell, just like when you grind up a plant and add it to your soup, you are adding its energy into the mix. So when I was a little witch, I didn't have a lot of money and I didn't have a lot of essential oils. So what I would do when I was doing a love spell, would say, okay, cinnamon, that sounded like love to me. Rose petals, that sounded like love to me. So I would grind them up in a mortar and pestle, which are very inexpensive and can be purchased like anywhere. But if you have an herb grinder of any sort, or even a coffee bean grinder, or even a blender, blenders are tricky, get things stuck in them, so be careful. But if you can pulverize your herbs in a little bit of oil, you can rub those herbs all over your candle. And there it is. Is it the essential oil? No. Is it as powerful as essential oil? Yes. Is it a lot less expensive? Yep. So that's one way to go. You can rub that oil, you can let it sit maybe overnight. I wouldn't do it longer. And by the way, if you add organic materials to oil, they can go really bad really fast. So don't make a lot, use them up quick. That's my advice about that. But if you do like essential oils and they are a little bit cleaner and easier to use, then you're rubbing those on this candle as well, before you put glitter, before you put anything else. So also in the bottom of your pull-out candle, if you're using a pull-out candle, you want to put a little bit of an herb. I like to use basil for love spells. Look that up. Why do I use basil for love spells? Because it's an herb that works really well for love spells. This is something that's sacred to Venus. So take a look at herbs that are sacred to Venus. There's tons of them. And also flowers. Like there are so many flowers that are sacred and used in love spells that I can't even go on. I'm looking here at the list. It's tremendous. Things like jasmine, lavender, which attracts loves. Lilies attract marriage. Lily of the valley attracts happiness. I'm going to go right down this list. It's tremendous. Rose is for love and healing. Snapdragon, overcoming rejection. On and on and on and on. Violets, tulips, woodbine, all of these things. Any kind of a flower, many, many flowers have a love attraction. And I will put those up today on my website and on the group so you can have them as well. And take a look at that list. That's a big list. So if you, whatever flower, the flower or herb, okay? So also spices. You have there's books and books and books out about being a kitchen witch, which I am totally a kitchen witch. So sometimes I'll just go to my pantry and bring out, I need a love spell. I'll grab the basil and call it a night. I could mix something up too. By the way, people use herbs or flowers and boil them and use those to cleanse a space or prepare the space for their spells. So again, layers and layers and layers of energy. So if you wanted to make what is called a tisane, which just means tea, which is a cool word for tea. Really, a tisane, Tisane, great word. With some of these things in that you don't intend to drink, or you could make it to drink, as long as it's not poisonous or dangerous. You can drink tea before you do your ritual, or you can use tea or tisane to cleanse your area, to actually cleanse your candles, and you can use herbs and flowers and that. All right, so there's another way to go. And sugar, by the way, for love is always a good thing. If you don't have anything else, add sugar. Some people like to add magnets to spells. You could. I would use pennies for a love spell because copper is sacred to Venus. So I would put pennies not in the jar. That will make an explosion really happen. How do I know? I've done it. Don't do it. Don't put any metal in a jar, okay? But you can put it underneath a dish or around the dish of a spell you're working on. It works just the same. Please be careful with metal in glass containers. Oy. So All right, we're getting on. It's getting late. All right, it's not that bad. We still have 20 minutes, so great. I know that there's a bunch of you watching, or there were. If you have any questions, please write them here on the comments, and I will answer you now. Or if you have questions for another time, then you can just question me on the group, find me on Facebook and ask me there, or go to the Magic Apothecary group and do it there, whatever. So the love spell. I think that's a lot to say, right? But I'm not finished. I'm really not finished. We're not done. Now, I've done all this stuff, and if you've left, and I hope you can find this. One person just left. I hope you find it later. You're not finished. Whatever. So you have your sacred space set up. You have cleansed the space. You have cleansed your candle. You have prepared yourself. You know what phase of the moon you're in. You know what colors you're using. You know what dark decorations. You've written out your spell. You've spelled out your spell. Now what? Right, now what? Now you empower your spell. And here's how we do that. You start up your altar. You light your incense. You light your candle for fire. You put your earth in the north quarter of your table or box or area. You put whatever representation of earth you have in the north. You put whatever representation you have of air in the east. You put whatever representation of fire you have, aside from your candle, say, if you're doing a candle spell, in the south. And then you put whatever representation or container of water you have in the west. That is where those elements live. Want to know more about that? Come to Pagan Path Study Group or read up on that. 4 elements. So you light your incense, you light your candle. We're doing simple stuff. Say we have just a representation of the moon and the sun and not a god or goddess, unless you want Venus and Cupid, and then there's pictures of them there. You ask the elements to be with you, and then you ask the god and goddess, or you ask the energy of the universe to be with you, and then you empower your spell with those 4 elements. You make sure that you douse, bring that spell around into that candle, into the incense smoke, or use your feathers to bring air upon it, or blow on it for air. Same thing with the candle in the, if you're using a candle in the south, make sure that you move your spell over that candle a few times and say, I empower the spell with the power of air, power of fire, power of water, by dipping into your water a couple of times and sprinkling, power of earth. Boom. And then you concentrate and imagine in your mind exactly what you want to happen. Exactly. Don't leave anything out. Take your time here. I find that if I light candles and have on music, it's a whole lot better. If I have on music, I just feel much, much better. And I feel much more empowered. If you'd like a list of stuff, music, I will give it to you. There's so much ritual music out there. Or use what you find. Could be classical music, could be rock, it could be anything. It doesn't matter. Anything in between, and everything works as long as it moves you. It could be your favorite song with this person, or a song that makes you think about this person or feel for this person. Whatever it is, it is. Or not. You can do this totally in silence. And then I really, 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 really suggest that you read your spell out loud. Read what you wrote. Read it out to the 4 elements and the god and goddess, or the divinity that you've chosen. Read it out loud. And then you place your hands over your spell, your candle, and you think again about what you want, and then you light it. Now, there's different ways to say things. You can say whatever you want with candles. I like to make sure I represent my pagan roots, and I use a pentagram to seal the spell. I just draw it on top, nice and easy, 5-pointed star, bam, and keep the energy inside my spell. And I say what I need to say to keep that sealed. And that's it. Now, when you go out, you want to say, I'm going to take my candles and unlight them. So you're going to snuff them. You know, you should think about getting a candle snuffer. You don't want to blow out a candle because you're dousing fire with air, and that sort of defeats the purpose of the fire. So, or use water, don't use water, obviously. So a candle snuffer, I sometimes like to use a fireproof dish just on top of a candle if it's in a jar. And by the way, if it's in a jar, I should say that you could use any candle you want in a mason jar, or a good mayonnaise jar that's been cleaned out, or any kind of jar. as long as you have some container for your stuff. So anyway, if the candle, and always put your candles on a dish. By the way, every candle, no matter what it is, some kind of a dish, just because you never know what's going to happen. And when wax moves and with fire, it can be very dangerous, especially if you have cloth involved. So you can douse it out with, like, I sometimes put like an ashtray just on top of it. And what I usually will say is, even though you are out on this plane, may you burn on the astral. Even though you are out on this plane, may you burn on the astral, which means that that spell is continuing to go even though you're not there. So you want to burn your candle as often as possible and get things moving. Now, spells don't happen right away. Whoever left, she left, I know. That's too bad, because I don't want anybody to believe that as soon as you light your spell, it's going to go poof, magic. I wish that was true. Oh, how I wish that was true. Okay, it takes a little while. Most people find that it takes about 3 turns of the moon. So you'll light your spell, it'll go, 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 it'll get through the dark of the moon, back again, and you want to reignite this spell as often as you need to. If it hadn't worked, you want to do this again and again until it happens. And that's it, and that's how it works. There's no poof, there's no Harry Potter wand, there's no angels singing in the choir that waft your love down into your lap. I wish it was true. It is not. Anybody who tells you otherwise is a liar. So that is not how magic works. Magic works because you put your mind around something in such a strong way. Then you go ahead and ignite it and let it go. That's how it works. You can't obsess about it either. You can't obsess about magic. If you obsess about magic, it's not going to work. You just have to light and go. So quickly, what time is it? 15 minutes, even better. There's other places and ways to do things that have to do with love, magic. You don't have to use candles. So let me give you some other ideas in case you don't want to use candles. That's totally fine. Just making that altar and using the paper is good enough, really. What the candle does is give our mind, our reptile mind or our child's mind, a chance to really, really see in physical format what we want. It's like drawing a picture when you're a kid of the bike you want for Christmas or for Hanukkah or whatever, you know. It's that. You're drawing a picture on something, you're burning it, you smell stuff, it's fire, it's glitter, it's beautiful smelling oils, it's in the dark. You have representation of ancient beings on your table. Oh, it's also very cool, you know. And your mind goes, oh, okay, cool. Love this. I love these smells. I love the look. It becomes what's called sacred. It's a prayer in physical format. But not everybody needs that. Some people can just draw a picture. People do a mandala. You can get a bowl and draw a circle, and you can just draw a mandala and hang that on your wall, and that's enough of a spell. If on the back you write exactly what you want and for what reasons. If you wanted to do cord magic, that's a whole nother version of magic, and you're making knots, and you're just using a string or a cord that is the right color and representation for what you want, and you're knotting in your magic. Spell of one, the knot of one, the spell's begun, you know, on and on and on, and you keep it knotted until you don't want to anymore. I have a knotted cord spell that I made for my husband and I 20-something years ago, and I still have it knotted because certainly I don't want to unknot it. So there's that. So you can actually, I mean, if you got really creative, you could do stuff like a jar spell is always a fun thing. Jar spells are cool and fun. You just take a jar and put inside the jar maybe that person's name, maybe your intentions on a piece of paper, maybe a picture of that person or you and that person together, and then you would seal it up by you would put in herbs and you would put in oils, and you could seal it with wax if you want and just leave it. That's a way to go. So jar spells work that way. You can make them very beautiful. You can use lots and lots of herbs. You can use lots and lots of oils. You can use colors. You can use glitter. You can do whatever you find the best for you. People also do stuff like they will write stuff down and bury it. Now, in a love spell, I think you want to put things out where the energy is good for love. So I wouldn't say you want to bury it in a bad, dark place. You want to put it in a bright place, or maybe in a growing place, or maybe under an apple tree or a fruit tree where that's blossoming and growing fruit. Or you might want to go to the ocean if you can, if you have that available, or a river. Those are always representations of the love goddesses in many, many pantheons, including Santeria. Oshun is a river goddess. So running water, brooks, streams, rivers, ocean, lakes. You can actually just make a one-night spell, make a little tiny candle and do it under the full moon, and let that all go, and let's see what happens, you know. Or you can create a chant that you say every day. There's a book called Positive Magick. It's an older book by Marion Weinstein, and look for that here. She wrote this wonderful book so many years ago, but inside of that is this chant about magic, about how to do magic. She's passed away. She's left us, but there's Positive Magick, yeah. There it is. Occult self-help, she called it. Really cool. I have this on my shelf. I totally recommend it, because inside of it she has this thing, this lovely little chant, which is like by let me see, hold on a second. She says, there is one power, which is goddess and God, and which is my intention. And I, your name, am God or goddess incarnate. Therefore, my intention is mine here and now. And then you say, for the good of all, according to the free will of all, so mote it be. So that's an important thing to remember. Again, that's about the whole thing in the beginning of this conversation. I said, you have to have sort of permission, free will of the person who you are doing the spell with. Again, it is all up to you. You have entirely free will to do whatever you want. I won't do it for you. I wouldn't do it for myself. I know better. And so do most of the people I know who do witchcraft know better. But you know what? Sometimes the only way to learn is by making mistakes and causing yourself great problems. Now, there are different types of witchcraft in the world. Certainly, we know of big ones like Wicca, which is a form of witchcraft. There's eclectic American witchcraft, which is a whole bunch of things. There's also things like Native American magic, South American indigenous tribe magic. There's also, northern magic from the, as I said, the Norse, from the Scandinavian countries. The Celtic countries like Ireland and Scotland have their own type of magic. The Greeks certainly have a very long tradition of magic, as do the Egyptians, the Mesopotamians, going back to the beginning of time. So you can research this and see through one spell, one little spell, one small intention, you will have created not only an altar, an understanding of an altar, you will have created an oil, or got to use an oil and understand plant magic a little bit, herb magic a little bit, symbolism, astrology, numerology, and more. It's amazing. One little spell, one small intention starts you on your road to becoming a magician. Now, you may not want to call yourself a witch. That's fine. That word has a lot of stigma attached to it. You can just say, I'm a magician. I'm a wizard. Or I'm just a person who wants to use a physical format of a prayer in order to manifest my desires. It doesn't matter. That's the great thing about this work. This has been handed down to us from our ancestors from the beginning of time on this planet, and maybe before, where we say, you know what, we have these minds in our bodies. Human beings have powerful minds that can bring them their desires, they can manifest their desires with their minds by thinking through exactly what they want and focusing their mind on what they want. Now, just like any other focused work, this is witchcraft or spell craft. This is a craft. You certainly wouldn't expect to learn how to knit by just looking at the knitting needles. You wouldn't expect to learn how to be a chef by learning how to cut one onion. This is a study in practical magic and what that is and how it works. It's not about having some kind of magic power zapping through your bones and that you are some kind of a wizard in Hogwarts. It is not about floating in the air. It is not about Bette Midler in Hocus Pocus. It is not about the Green Witch in Wizard of Oz. None of that is true. Some of it is. The more you learn, the more you will see that in stories and fairy tales, there is some truth. In all of the things I just mentioned, there is truth. There is real witchcraft behind the fakery and behind the Green Witch on the broomstick, behind, Glinda in her bubble, behind Harry Potter and at Hogwarts. All of that's somewhat true. That is true, but exaggerated. So take a look at those things. It is Halloween season, Samhain. This is a great time to start learning stuff like this. It's also the dark time of the year. We've gotten past the sunny, bright time of the year. And this is the time to maybe sit with yourself and your desire and understand why you want to do this. Now, certainly you could listen to this video at any point in time, but no matter what point in time it is and what time it is on the wheel of the year, get to know why you are attracted to this. I suggest very strongly you start something called a book of shadows. We talked about that, and a formulary book. So whatever spells you do and whatever herbs you use, it's important for you to start to write everything down. You should write down, and it can be on the internet, and it's really fine. And one day you'll be teaching like I am. So what you need to do is write down what day you started your spell, what phase of the moon it was in, what time did you do it, what planetary hour was it. We discussed that last month, so look that up, planetary hours. What planetary hour, what color did I use? Did I use a candle? Did I use a jar? Did I use what? Did I use? How did I put it together? What symbols did I carve, or write, or draw? Where's the writing I used? What did I ask for? What was on the altar? Did I use an altar? Every single bit of it needs to be written down as a journal, as a diary. This way, if you have to do the spell again, you'll know. And also, you need to write down what happened, exactly what happened. Sometimes people will press flowers into a book of shadows to represent them, and it can become, if you really want it to become something quite beautiful. If you want to handwrite it and use calligraphy and colored inks and keep the flowers or herbs that you used, pieces of them involved, to remember. Always remember a picture of the spell itself. Now you can take a picture, you can print it or not print it. You can make a glorious book of shadows online if you want to. You can do it on Pinterest and never have anybody else see it but you. It's really kind of cool what we can do now. You can share it with your friends. You can put it on a USB drive. You can do whatever you want. But I really suggest that you keep a really close track of what happens. And that's how it works. I also really suggest that if you are very much interested in witchcraft or Wicca itself or paganism, be it Santeria or Voodoo or any other pagan path, that you get some books and learn. There are many books out there. I can and I do have a list of books for beginners that are actually really kind of good, and a lot of information about my particular path of Wicca and Santeria as well, which I've also studied to some extent. Let's just talk briefly about animals. I'm going to talk briefly about, there was this cow that somehow escaped into Prospect Park. It was a black cow. It was a calf, actually, a bull calf. Now I know it could have come from a slaughterhouse, or it could have come from somebody's house, and that was probably a ritual animal. That's what I believe, especially where it was. Okay, I do not believe in animal sacrifice at all for any reason ever. Me, never. I'm a vegan practically. I'm a vegetarian, and many Wiccans are. I even feel and I pray to the plants I take and ask them for forgiveness for their life when I eat them and when I use them in magic. So that's me, and that's many Wiccans. However, one of the most powerful forces you have runs through your very own body, and that's your blood. You can use your blood. If you are a woman of childbearing age and you have menses and you have menstrual blood, you can use that to anoint any spell you ever do. Or if you don't have menses, you can, if you're a man or you don't, you can use your blood from your finger and empower any spell. They say there is nothing more powerful than the blood of a sorceress. And I believe that that's true. Remember, though, if you do use your blood, that you are forever linked to that spell. So that's something to consider. Also, if you are using, doing something with somebody else, and you're going to do magic with or for them, you need to use maybe part of their body, not a piece of their body. You could, if they give you permission, use their blood, or you could use some hair, nail clippings, any kind of body fluid, any body fluid, and that means semen, and that means vaginal discharge, that means anything that comes out of the body, skin scrapings. You can use pictures of people if you have their signature. That is also a powerful magical talisman. You can use that as well in your spells. Then again, we go back to the beginning. It has to be someone who wouldn't be upset if you use those things. You don't want to use those things against somebody to harm somebody. We're going to go, as the year goes on, to protective magic. And we will step into the world of the gray magic. But right now, I'm going to really insist you don't. So if you do have a lover and he or she is fine with you, you know, and you know that they care for you and this is okay and it's all good, and you need to take a little bit of them, get a signature, a picture, their birth date, your mother's name. These things make your spell more powerful. If you don't have these things, it doesn't matter. It's all your intention. Everything you add to it is just layers and layers and layers and layers of stuff that adds more power. So that's it for tonight. That's a lot of stuff. So this is like, if you were going to create a spell, I would suggest you like take notes here and go through it piece by piece and really be careful and get the right equipment. And yeah, it's not easy. And a lot of people get turned off and don't want to do it because it takes too much time, etc. So if you have any questions, as I said, I am here to answer them. And this is free of charge. Always, my lectures are free of charge. My services are not. So if you're interested in a spell created by me, which I can guarantee is extremely powerful and well done, I can do that for most people as long as the spell is not something that I disagree with. And I read cards and palms and astrology, and I teach private one-on-one. If you're interested in any of those things, you can get in touch with me. If you'd like me to mentor you in witchcraft or Wicca, I am available for that as well. So both on Skype or on the phone or wherever you want to do it. I am located in New York City, and I can meet with you privately there as well. So I want to say to you guys, I won't see you again until next month. Blessed Samhain. May you have a wonderful Samhain season, and that's the new year in Wicca. So Happy New Year coming up, and may you use your powers for good, and may the God and Goddess bless you, and blessed be to all of you. Much love and care, and see you next month. We'll start talking about money magic then. Have a good time. Bye.